At this time, we have a very special visitor with us tonight. Earlier this week, as many of you know, we lost a lifelong friend and educator to Glades County, Mrs. Barbara Hughes. And I know myself personally, and many of you in here, had Miss Hughes as their librarian or teacher. She was a friend to all, and I was blessed to have had her, to be in her home as her daughter's friend. And it didn't matter who you were, where you were from. She was a welcoming mom to everyone. And she treated her library the same way. When you went to the library, you were one of her kids. And I was trying to think of a way, when I first heard about it, a way that we could honor her immediately. And, you know, I thought about flowers. What could I do to make Mr. Hughes and their children know how much we loved her? And I know that Jesus Christ was very important to her and her family. And I know the love that Mr. Hughes had for her. So, Mr. Hughes, I spoke with Sonny Jean, which was their daughter, and asked, did she think their dad would be able to do it? So at this time, I've asked Mr. Hughes to come and say our opening prayer.
Can I make a couple comments also?
I would hope you would, yes, sir.
If you didn't, it wouldn't be Sonny Hughes.
Thank you, Superintendent. Appreciate the invitation. I normally wouldn't be at a school board meeting anymore. I passed on all those. But to honor our Barbara, I told her that I would come, and I think I'm able. I didn't ask Barbara Hughes to come here in 1967 and become an educator, okay? She came for love and for money. Mr. Ritchie at the elementary school, which was at the old middle school, recruited her from Jacksonville Beach to come down here. And I had already been offered a job in Milan. I was in graduate school, and she called me and says, look, we can go to Moorhaven for 1 or 2 years. The salaries as high as in the state at start. And I'd already been offered a job at the high school, but I said, no, I can't come. I'm marrying a girl from New Jersey, and when I brought her to Moorhaven, took her fishing, I looked in the back of the boat and she was crying. And she says, I would never come to a place like this. I said, don't worry, I only come down here to fish. Well, that was in 1967, and she retired in 2009. So she spent 42 years in education here. 2 of them was down at the city library while our kids were being born. But she was here for 40 years. And like she said, she was a librarian, which is what she really liked, when she started off in kindergarten. The kindergarten was the first class. She and the other kindergarten teacher were the first ones to come to the present elementary school. It wasn't open to anybody else except the kindergarten the second semester. That's how long ago that was. And now they're getting ready to get rid of that elementary school. Anyway, they came over first as a kindergarten. So that was the beginning of how she came here. And she did spend 40 years in our school district. So in her honor, I was willing to come down and start your meeting. And I'm so grateful that our school board starts their meetings with prayer. I'm hoping that pretty soon we'll be starting our football games back with prayer. And I'm thinking it's going that direction. I hope it is. So with that, let's go to the Lord and thank Him for all the blessings that He gives us. And we're going to close out with the Lord's Prayer, if you don't mind. Heavenly Father, we come to you now with thanksgiving for all the blessings that come our way, most of all for a country that we live in, a community that we live in, the opportunities we have. And I thank you for the leaders of our community here that take on the business of running our school district. I pray that they'll always keep in front of them our students, our children, who are our future, and their welfare. And Lord, I just thank you for it. The opportunity I have to come and ask you to bless this meeting, bless these that have come to attend. I pray that you'll go with all of us into this summer. Most of all, Lord, you'll keep us all safe and keep our country safe. So as you directed your disciples in how to pray, I ask that you listen to our prayer also. Our Father,
Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, excuse me. Let's take care of business.
Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anybody have any questions or, because I'm going to excuse myself after second row, looks like I don't need to be.
I want to say something, if I could. I want to say this for you, Sonny, but I want everybody to hear it. As most of you or all of you know, I was principal of the high school when many years, 14 years, that Barbara was the media specialist, librarian. And I could tell lots of stories, but this one, I've told several people this story already, but I don't think I've told Sonny. So we had a rule, that's probably still a rule, that teachers stand outside the classrooms during class changes. And so Barbara was very faithful at standing outside the library and helping supervise the courtyard there at the old school. And I happened to be out walking around, and so I stopped there and was just talking to her for a few minutes. Now this would have to be probably, well, I was principal from 1996 till 2010, so it was sometime in that time frame, and she'd been married to Sonny for probably 30 years or so at that time, right?
I don't know, it's 56.
Yeah, so if you got married in 56, that would have been at least 40 years,
Yeah,
right?
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're standing there talking, and you came walking up from probably the student parking lot between the gym and the media center toward the courtyard, and she saw you. And she looked at me and she said, you know, after all these years, when I see him coming, my heart still goes pity-pat. That is true love.
Like I said, she came to Moorhaven for 2 days and for love. So she was from New Jersey, I was from Florida, we met in Tennessee. Come to find out we were married, we were delivered by the same doctor in Orlando, 3 months apart. She grew up in New Jersey, I grew up in Florida, we met in Tennessee. So tell me that's destiny.
Mr. Hughes, did she have a favorite children's book that you can remember?
Oh, I can't remember, she read everything. She cross-stitched, you name it. She come to my house, everything in it is her stuff.
She read every book that she bought for the library before she put it on the shelves. And if it was a good book by Barbara's standards, but it maybe had a passage in it that she thought was inappropriate, she just tore the page out. And the kids would come and they would say, Miss Hughes, there's some pages missing or a page missing out of this book. And she said, you don't need to read that. You don't need to read that.
That was the old-fashioned censorship right there. I remember that as well. And when I remember one thing about her, a lot of things, but we did a Bible study in the library before school started once a week, and she was very faithful with that. And Claudia McPherson led us, and it was a wonderful time. But she's the first person I ever saw wear a pair of Crocs. She had some kind of surgery, I think on her foot maybe, and the doctor told her to wear Crocs, and she was able to wear them to school. And I thought those are the ugliest shoes I've ever seen in my life. And the next, took about 10 years for them to catch on. But finally, I bought myself a pair, but I'll never forget those Crocs.
Yeah, just to give you an example, I got a text today from a girl, and she said, she wanted to know when the memorial service was, because she wants to come. because Barbara had given her a Bible at school when she was in school, and she still has it. So she wanted to come. And I can't even visualize who that girl is, but she's.
So do you know yet when the memorial's going to be?
I'm getting ready to go see the preacher right now.
Okay.
At the one at 6:30. And we're gonna talk about it, but tentatively, it's July the 29th at 11 at our church, which is across from Phil's Pizza. She and I are the last surviving charter members of that church. So I was only one, but she was very faithful in us getting that church started. She served communion, she prepared communion in that church for over 40 years until she couldn't do it anymore. But she suffered from Alzheimer's. A year after she retired, and she didn't want to retire. She tried her best to just keep working. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Hughes.
you.
I'll let y'all conduct your business. I'm gonna go try to conduct mine.
Okay. Sorry, I'm chewing. I'd just like to remind everybody that if you intend to speak on any of the items on the agenda, if you would please be sure that you have filled out the card at the table and given it to Ms. Jack. Okay, everybody ready?
Ready.
Item 2.1, approve the minutes of the Glades County School Board regular meeting, May 25th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the May 25th meeting.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
3.1, approve the May 2023 finance reports.
And I make a motion that we approve the May 2023 finance report.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
4.1, presentation of the Ron Clark Academy training.
So, was it May? We sent several teachers and the board's blessing to Atlanta to the Ron Clark Academy. And I think in almost 30 years of education, I've never seen a group go away and come back to Glades County so excited about what they experienced. And I truly felt like, I know a lot of times the board, I will, ask for monies, and you all are so gracious to always send our teachers and are so excited about professional development. And I know at times you wonder, well, what are they getting out of this professional development? And when my phone starts blowing up and it's like, I can't wait to tell you about this. And they're just, text message and pictures and I truly feel like this is going to change the trajectory of our entire district. And it's the passion and what they're going to talk about is going to just set you, we're all going to be ready to go. So at this time, I don't know how your presentation is going to all come up together or.
I want to know what the shirt
I know,
says.
I've got a lot of questions. These shirts are
My
like,
secretaries didn't tell me to check my email. One of my house colors, which you're gonna find out. Oh.
Lindsay? You going?
are y'all doing a cheer?
We could do it.
There it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
It's already.
Well, there's only one blue team, so that must not be a good team.
So this was and y'all can chime in at any time. This was as soon as we got there on the first day. And immediately, the moment we got out of our Uber, we were like, whoa, you could feel this energy, this positive energy from the students, from the staff. And everyone, one of the things is don't go back to your district and say that you want a flying dragon. They didn't start this way. So keep that in mind as you go through looking at the pictures of the school. They started like an old Coca-Cola factory building. It was dreary, but through the years, they've been 15, something like that. what is it?
15 years.
15 years that they've developed this. So it kind of gave us the idea of, okay, if they can do that in an old Coca-Cola factory, we can do that in Glades County. So,
This was just the courtyard.
yeah, that's just like in the courtyard area. All this. So this is inside the school. And in the rotunda, there's like the flying dragon, and it's incredible. But one of the big pieces that we were like, really took in, everywhere in the school, you know, we always have these school themes, and as a teacher, I dread them every year, having to come up with a new theme and decorate and everything. Their theme is all over the school are pictures of students throughout the years, teachers with their families, and really it doesn't cost them much at all. All they do is it's nothing fancy. They print out the pictures, put it in a picture frame, and it's just everywhere you go. It's all these pictures of the kids and the teachers, and it gives a very positive vibe, like you personally know the teachers, you personally know the kids. So that was one of the things that we absolutely loved, and we already picked out our school theme from Hayden Elementary for this year, but hopefully in the future that's something that the district can kind of move towards at all the schools, instead of coming up with all these things that cost all this money, just get some pictures up.
Well, I really like the pictures in the hallways and stuff, like in the library at the elementary school, Miss Hall loves to print out pictures, like when in Chalanika, she's got this big fish and all the pictures of kids in the past and present that participate in those events, and then she has like birthday boards, and if it's spring, she'll have a flower, she'll put their face in it and like put the date, and all the kids, like when they come into the library for specials, I'm like, want to tell us I'll take all these pictures off the wall because they just want to look at themselves and find people they know, and it really makes them feel like a part of the school, I think. Like when I was walking around, I was like, oh my gosh, there's the teacher and her whole family, and here they are, Ron Clark on, what's that show?
Survivor.
Jumping off of the thing, like all the kids, I was so excited.
Yeah, we say, okay, we just had lunch with the students, so it was really cool.
They also have pictures of the students with their families.
Yes.
The students' families,
Oh, I
and
like
so it
that.
kind of brings a connection between the student, staff, and just the whole school all together, seeing them up on the walls.
Yeah. And all the staff, like, to get a picture of what it was like there, like what she said in the morning when we were in front of that gate, there was the PE teacher, you would never know he's a PE teacher, he's wearing a suit, it's all the same color and a hat the same color, and he's like jamming out there because they have music in the whole place, and all the kids are so excited, he's like talking to the parents like they're friends. It was just like such a like community-like environment. It
Well,
was
when we
nice to see everybody excited for school.
Yeah, and when we came back, everyone was like, well, what was it? And I said, well, honestly, when you stepped on the campus, the first thing we all noticed were how professionally the teachers were dressed. It didn't matter if they were a PE teacher, like she said, it did not matter. And I know sometimes as teachers we get, oh, it doesn't matter. It does matter. I mean, it was obvious. As soon as we stepped foot on that campus, I've never stepped on any campus and we're like, whoa, every teacher here is dressed to the T. And to me, it really made a difference. And like she said, just the energy. They weren't just, hey, good morning. No, it was like they were hooting and hollering and music was playing. I mean, it was just like, we were excited. We're like, oh, this is awesome.
I didn't know that school was actually happening. I thought it was like a presentation for us, and then when I saw students walking in and the same guy was greeting the students with his high-spirited self, you know, it just brought everybody's attention to it and was very bringing, like welcoming to us.
It was also very eye-opening because we went at the end of the year.
Yes, the last few
And
days.
we're all like, you know, exhausted from the whole year, and all these teachers were still so excited. Like it made me want to come to school and like blare music. And
We did the next day. We did. We took this huge speaker in our cafeteria. Literally the next day we came back.
So one of the things that Ron Clark, like the academy, like when you go there, what they want to teach you is engagement, culture, and relationships. So starting with engagement, they had all the kids engaged from coming out of the car. Engagement doesn't always mean that every kid is engaged in the content. They showed us so many different things, and it's so great as a teacher to see another teacher actually putting it in place and showing you videos and showing you how they just do little tidbits of engagement in their classroom that the kids were all participating. We always have that one kid that doesn't want to talk. It's fine. Like they found ways where everybody was a part of the lesson.
And one of the amazing things that I noticed, a lot of the programs they're using, I think actually all of them are free, and the majority of the programs are programs we've used here. We just don't keep that momentum going. And like every single student, like you would think with all these teachers coming in, the kids would be like, no, they're so engaged. We're gonna get to that part that's this house system. Every student is engaged at all times. It's incredible. And it's just like you said, the little pieces that they do.
An example of an engagement that they did with us is they use this free site called Look It.
Oh,
I used
we
it in the
used it.
library. The teacher started a game. All these kids have iPads. They said find a teacher, get with them, and they were all with us, and we were answering these vocabulary questions. And whoever wins within, it was like a set time or whatever. You're supposed to like go. You can steal somebody's points and all this. And one of our teachers actually won. Kelly, the dance teacher at the elementary school, she won $1,000 for her class, but that teacher specifically, he makes bets with his students. So he's like, okay, whoever wins gets $1,000 towards their, what was it? Their house points, or 1,000 points, the child, and then the teacher that won about $1,000 towards their, what was it? Donors choose account.
And it was just a quick 5 or 10 minute game, but every single
I don't think it's, I think it's like 5 minutes.
every student was engaged, and it wasn't just a game, it was all vocabulary, words that I didn't know.
They do.
But one of the things that they said is like the engagement pieces have to have content in it. Like the lesson should have small bits of engagement, and then you should have a whole group lesson that focuses on the content, and then you just reinforce it with an engagement. Like that little game, they had already taught this vocabulary, it's just like a practice piece. You can go back,
Culture, one of the biggest pieces that I feel like sometimes we lose in our schools, and some people say, well, why? Like we went back and presented this to our staff, and culture kept coming up of like, well, what's happened to the culture, specifically in Moorhaven Elementary, and some of the things that we noticed there were like, it's just things that we've let go, the negativity, gossip being a huge no-no on that campus. I mean, it is absolutely not allowed. And Ron Clark spoke a lot about how, this quote here, the energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transferred. So if you have someone with negative energy, it's transferring to me, and then I'm gonna transfer it, and that's how it starts poisoning your campus. So it was really eye-opening to us. And then he said it's time to play offense instead of defense every day. So like we're always like wanting to be defensive and stuff. And he's like, you cannot go each day into your school playing defense. You gotta be on the offense, pushing forward.
So how do you stop people from gossiping?
Well, we have some. Well, we tried it. We're gonna get to 1%. We did the next day that we came back. I walk into the office and there's all this chitter chatter. I'm like, did you hear? And I was like, I'm not discussing it. So it's just one of those things, and we're gonna talk about this 1% change that he says. You can't say, I'm gonna change all of this. It's 1%. That's at the end, and we'll talk. But it's just, it takes change.
I think
Starting with the
big thing
person,
with-
everyone saying, okay, I'm not gonna do it, I'm not gonna do it, and then it kind of stops. And then the big thing was like the office is not a hangout place. He said that's the first place that parents come, public comes onto your campus. It should not be a hangout place for staff and students.
Students listen.
Yes.
They listen to the adults.
The big thing for culture at this school is like, they don't have that many staff, maybe 15 people, 15 teachers, maybe 15 to 20. But they all do everything together. It's like a
Everything.
big family, all the teachers help each other, they're all, I don't know how to explain it, they're just all together. They go on retreats,
Yes.
he takes all the teachers on retreats. Ron Clark himself is the administrator, but he's also a teacher, so
Every
is
day,
Kim
classroom.
Bearden, she's also a teacher, like they're all on the same level, if that makes sense.
And he also said, don't think that our staff doesn't ever disagree. They do. And he says, and we're gonna work it out, we're gonna discuss it, whenever we come to an agreement, that's the agreement, and it's done, it's over. You're not gonna go to your door card and be like, I don't believe what happened, da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, and I know this happens on school campuses. He says, this is the #1 problem that he says is across school campuses, is culture. And he said, when this starts breaking down at your school, you're losing everything. Everything, because then, you're losing it among the staff, and then it's going on to the students. So this was a huge thing for us, that Moorhaven, specifically Moorhaven Elementary, took
Also,
away.
the
Yeah,
house
eye-opening.
shirts also develop culture too, which we're getting to.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, so
We have Miss Tyler at the middle school at West Glades. She's very big on just stating over and over, culture is what we allow, and if we allow our teachers to be negative, that's gonna obviously go on to the kids, and I feel like the kids be negative, they're already so mean to each other. And we need to work on that, right? And if only 2 people are working on it, and other teachers are letting it slide, we're obviously, that's the culture we're on, right? So as long as we can work together, really, and we should have always been working together, but this system really helps us nip that in the butt. And again, if we can turn our culture into something positive, the kids can then not only is our school a safe place for a lot of them, it can continue or even be that bigger safe place for them, right? So.
Sorry. No, I was just gonna say, as far as the energy being transferred, everyone goes through different things in their lives, but we chose to be teachers and those students look up to us. So like whatever we're going through shouldn't come through our classroom door. It shouldn't come into the school. And we should be exuding positiveness and uplifting the kids. We gotta leave what's happening on our personal lives, at home or kind of cover for the kids. Because they, like she said, they will take that negative energy and spill throughout the school.
And following up with what Ms. Stan just said, so this is one of the things that he had said, we are handed soda cans that have been shaken by other people or things, then they enter our rooms, cafeteria, bus, and schools every day. Building relationships with students, make them feel seen and heard, and we're gonna talk about the house system, that one of the ways for the culture and the relationships is through the house system. So, is that when it's the house?
I think so.
On the house
It's
system.
somewhere.
So they have this house system and they're, oh, is there, go ahead, go to the next.
I don't know if it's the
Oh,
next one, but
maybe.
oh, here's.
Yeah, okay, so the house system, they divide the teachers into houses and they always say, the house picks you, you don't pick the house. And I was like, this is crazy. So we were all in this huge auditorium and they gave a quick snippet. And I was like, okay, I think I'm the house of givers, or I don't know. So we all kind of picked our houses, not really knowing much. So we go out, we pick our shirts, which mine was black, it was the Altruismo. And the next day they asked us to wear our house colors, and it was crazy how fast, when we knew nothing about the house system. The next day we go to this rally and we're all like hooting and hollering and do the chants with the kids. I mean, and that's
Kids are like yelling at
fast.
us, like, you better be safe.
Oh yeah, they were like, no, you're doing it wrong, try it again. I think it was Divine's team that was the one that had I don't even know what their cheer was, but that fast, because that relationship, they wanted us, they were so welcoming into this house. So what the house system basically is they earn points, okay? So, and Ron Clark is like, this whole thing of every time a child does something good, give them a candy, here's your prize box. He's like, that is the most ridiculous thing. He's like, when kids are outside at their house and they're playing basketball and they win the game, did y'all ever just fly out from the sky because they won? He's like, y'all stop. You're spending all your money on this stuff, stop. He's like, it's insane. So their point system, it's not for expectations. And that's another big thing, expectations. They do not get points for doing the expectation. When the speed limit's 65, the cop's not gonna pull you over and say, you know what, you're doing a great job following the speed limit. That's the expectation.
Yeah.
So they get points only for above the expectation. And they are so competitive with it. So the teachers all belong to the house, so the teachers are wanting the house points. This last year, they didn't do anything until the end of the year. So all year, the kids have to work for these house points with nothing in
They still don't
return.
get anything though,
Yeah.
the end of the year
is
is,
not,
they just decorate in that color, that's their end of the year.
Yeah.
Like if you win in your greenhouse, they'll decorate their gym or whatever.
yeah.
All in green with balloons and their name, their green name.
But the kids want it so bad because they see the teachers buying
Just like
into
a
it.
pride.
Yeah, I guess bragging rights. So that is really cool. And each of these houses have different meaning. They have different animals that represent them. The Altruismo was the house that I was a part of. And actually it was really funny because when they said the house picks you, the one teacher on the campus that reminded me most of myself was the Altruismo teacher. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so connected the entire time, and come to find out they're the same houses. And then when they kind of fell into their houses, it was like, I really connected with those, like, the whole house thing.
And
Back to the relationship part, that's kind of why they built, have the
Yes.
house. So the kids there are all, their demographics are not that different from ours, except the kids have to apply to go there. But there's a lot of kids, like they were saying, the soda can, there's a lot of kids who their parents are in prison or whatever. There's a lot of kids that have, 10,000 brothers and sisters in a tiny apartment. Like, they come from homes like that, so they give them something to belong to at
That's
school.
what, yeah, he said,
That's what
whenever they're always, the reason like they join gangs and get on that path is for the
Yeah.
belonging. So he says, we give the belonging here. They provide it for
And the
them.
kids truly feel it because when they came up to us, as soon as we walked into the gates, they came up to us, shook our hands, introduced themselves. They were wondering about us, but then one of the questions was, what do you like about RCA? And they said the relationships they build with their teachers. That was the very first thing, probably the first 5 that came up to me to talk to me. And they said, the tough love is there, but that's because they want the best for us. And I think that's truly what matters whenever you're teaching kids is they have to know that you do love them. You're always there to look out for them. So I definitely felt it there. As soon as I walked in, I'm like, you can tell the love is here.
And that would, to add on what the expectation, and we asked, like, how do you get it there? Like, obviously, we were there in May, and they're like, in September it doesn't look like this, but they said the first 2 to 3 weeks of school, it is
the kids aren't allowed to talk.
procedure for teens, and they do it over and over and over. Content's still happening, but those first 2 to 3 weeks, he said, do we have mamas crying? Yeah, we got mamas calling and crying. We have kids crying. Yes, the kids are crying. He's like, but he says, I tell all the parents, just trust me, these 2 to 3 weeks, and I promise you, your child's gonna be a changed child. And in one of the classes, one of the kids, they have like all these like ways to do things, and he just would kind of say, even with the adults in the room, they were talking while he talked. He stopped, he waited. The expectation was across every part of the campus. Yeah.
So this video, the first video, is a video of the rally where we were all split up into our house color for that day. So this is a video of the green house chant. So on, I guess every Friday, they do this, and the energy, you'll just see.
Yeah. We had like a minute and 30 seconds to learn that? Yeah, they were getting so frustrated. Bianca was the other one that was in the altruism, and they're like, no, you gotta do this. And I was like, my gosh, how do we learn this fast?
But the kids were like cheering us on.
Yeah,
and
it
like,
was-
no, you can do like this.
Awesome
Here's
points.
the cheerleading thingy.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So, yes,
Okay, so the house system is very much like Harry Potter. You
Oh,
have
yes.
that little itty bitty book that everybody loves. So you're broken down into your houses, and let's say I'm part of the red house, and she's part of the green house. So we have our little families, right? And then that way we can bond with these kids, and it reduces the amount of kids that slip through, right? Because you're always, once we see a kid like go down the wrong path, we're like, oh, maybe I should have like paid more attention to them, right? So that lets us kind of troubleshoot things, and that kid that would have slipped through the cracks can be like, oh wait, I have somebody who cares for me, right? And if I am teaching 8th grade, and let's say she's teaching like 6th grade, those kids in our family can now talk to me, and I'm not a scary person, right? When they get to me, they're like, oh, Miss Martinez, I know her, right? And it's also taught that although I'm red team, she's green team, it only works if we're all a family, and that's what that second video is going to show.
Yes.
Although we're all separated into our different houses, we're still going to cheer for everybody when we come down the slide.
That was my
And-
favorite part, was that nobody, it was a rivalry, there was competition, but if one team won, everybody cheers for them.
and you'll see that in this next video. And just to add on, you did an excellent job explaining it, by the way. But, and when she said that reminded me, every student gets into a house, and you're probably thinking, well, how the house is selected. They have a wheel and they spin, and that's why they say the house chooses you. And so like pre-K, so when they have these rallies, all of the grades are intermixed. You're gonna have pre-K
This
first,
is
second,
fourth
third,
to
fourth, fifth, okay, yeah, this school's 4 through 8. So like she said, they always have someone that they kind of go to. And then once they're in that house, they stay in that house until they graduate from the school in 8th grade. So whatever house they're in 4th grade, and so they kind of like build it up and throughout their years there. So this is another really cool thing they do. It's called, they have these Letterman jackets. And I've already looked, they're like, Letterman jackets are like $77. I'm like, that's very reasonable for what these jackets mean to these kids. So each week, the staff, they come together and they pick a role model student. And all of the staff has to agree that that one student, they said, yes, sometimes we go at it trying to pick the one student that's going to deserve that jacket. And
sometimes they don't pick a student.
right, and sometimes they don't. I mean, like if there wasn't a student that, like I said, that week there was not a student that met everything, then there's not a student that week. But you'll see,
It's non-academic.
yeah, it's just a role model student.
And I had just had lunch with this little girl. That's
Oh, that's right, I forgot that. You had lunch with her, that's right. And watch how the entire school is excited for her.
Last week we had one, this week we got one, but only one coach. This coach is.
Maybe just explaining, why they picked her.
She's kind, she's smart, but I don't know if she knows that inside of her is a quiet storm. And she can look at her son's little eyes when she watches things, where she's perceptive, she takes in her surroundings, and then she's aware of what's going on. She has so much potential and ability, she's a quiet storm, and I'm enjoying watching her learn, and she can control the weather. She's quite an exceptional young lady.
Look how they're all, what you see with her. I did too. I mean, it's this, you can describe it.
A lot of things are not realistic for public school.
How many kids are there though? How many are the actual students?
I did ask, yeah.
It's like 30 kids per grade level.
There looks like there's a ton.
There's parents there too.
Oh, okay.
Parents like belong to that house too. If their kids in tree, the parents are decked
Show up every day and we're gonna drop.
They're all into it. I got lost going back and she was like, yeah, my son just graduated. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like, what high school is he going to? She's like, no, he just graduated high school. So she was still coming back 5 years later to the school to help volunteer.
So they have to give an acceptance speech, so this is what the school is doing.
But she didn't know she was getting it.
No, it is a huge deal. That's the love, it's just incredible.
When you go to class and you stand up and then you address the person that they were talking to,
Yeah, and those things are taught in those first 2 to 3 weeks that Ms. Garrett was talking about, those rules, those expectations, and if one of the students breaks that, it's dealt with before it continues, so they're all.
They get shut down.
Yeah.
Sit down.
They don't know how to speak, they speak properly, they ask you, if you ask them a question, they respond, and they ask you a question. So they're like little adults.
And with the Letterman jackets, we always associate Letterman jackets with sports, so you think about the kids that aren't athletes. Like, and then it really, I started thinking like, man, we done this whole thing. And then, obviously weekly probably isn't feasible in a bigger school, but like once a quarter, oh my gosh. And once you give it to one kid that first quarter, I can't imagine. They will all be wanting to have that Letterman jacket.
Ron Clark said that he had a parent willing to pay however much it took for their child to get this Letterman jacket, but he said, no. He held that expectation with the parent too. And then at the end of the year, when the student did get the Letterman jacket, the parent ended up going up to him and apologizing and realizing the whole purpose behind it. So I thought that was cool.
Do they wear uniforms?
Yes.
Yes.
And they're precious. I don't know if we have pictures.
I just wondered.
Uniforms. And then on a side note, I go on to the next slide with, the question was asked about IEPs and 504s. And yes, they have them, but he was real quick. He said, every time someone asks that question, yes, we have them. but he says, I make my parents, we have an agreement. You give me 30 days without following the IED or the 504, 30 days. And I promise you, your child is going to be successful with how the school is ran. And he says majority of the time, they do not need those accommodations.
Well, because the teachers eat lunch with the kids, like, he gives them time during them. If they need math facts at lunch, he's doing math facts at lunch with them. A lot of things that they do here, this is private school, obviously, like, is not something that public school can really do with all the laws and things going on. But we can make some changes to certain things and make it our own. Like, I know when I work in Henry County, there's schools in Henry County that do the house system. It's not to this scale with the stadium and everybody's a certain color and screaming all this, but they do stuff like that, and we can definitely do something like that here, and I think our kids will definitely benefit from it. Like, one of the people that presented there, they said you give them a crew with a cause, so they don't fall into gangs, they don't fall into the wrong crowd that's gonna lead them down the wrong path.
And when so the gossip question, what she said was eating lunch, someone had asked about data chats and everything, and he was like, I do it at lunch. He said, the teacher lounge where gossip is, stop, teachers need to be eating with their kids. And I was like, okay.
Another thing that they do, like.
Did you hear that, Mr. Dimchek?
He's cringing back there.
Like the little girl that got up and gave a speech, they also do something at Rome Park's called the Amazing Shake, and they like teach kids all these
There's our star.
things that they need to know in life. And Miss Erskine, if you didn't already see the video on Facebook, she did a little piece of that at summer school. A very little piece, and those are things that these kids, like all kids really, need to have those skills.
Ms. Odom and I have been talking about the Amazing Shake and possibly working that into Avid, because it is a skill that would work with Avid, so.
And what I love about that is that it costs $0, and I think the impact is gonna be so huge. Because, I mean, I know I was blessed, and I think Mrs. Clemens and Mrs. Drake also went, and those kids were really excited, and I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know really what I was walking into, but then when I went back through the video, I had so many people messaging me on social media and saying, oh my gosh, I love this, I think this is amazing, I think all schools should do this, and, you know, I think it's one of those little things, like you said, this is a private school, and obviously there's a lot that we can't recreate, but there's some that we can take from it, and that is one that is huge. And one of the students I know on a personal level, and there's some behavior concerns, and he struggled in school for many years, but when he shook my hand and looked at me in the eye, it was like a different kid, like he was meaning business. And I was kind of like, when I was talking to him, it was like I was talking to someone I didn't even know. It was great, and so.
The good thing about that too is like kids like that who are not academically doing too great, they still have to get a job. They still have to talk to people, like having those skills, like that makes you more valuable sometimes.
One of my students from last year is in my summer school class, and he academically is not very talented, and he has been like rocking his handshake. And he's been so successful with it, and to see him get so excited about the success, I'm like, he's gonna be a great asset to a company. Because I don't know what he's gonna do when he grows up, but it's gonna be something big. Like,
Well, one of the little girls, and if you watch the video, you can see her, when she shakes my hand, she took her other hand and put it on my hand. And when I thought she was talking to my soul. She was like looking at me and how are you today? And I was like, I didn't know, it kind of took me back, but I had more people, right, I had more people message me and say, that little girl, she's who you should have picked for the winner, because it's very, when you're an adult and you shake somebody's hand, that takes confidence to put your hand over theirs. And so, great job.
I would like to know when you're
tomorrow.
So we'll end with this. Ron said that when, I guess it was this last year, he says, you're always like having your principal's always saying, we're going to make all these changes. And he said he sat back and he was like, no, I'm going to ask them each person to do something 1% better. Because if everyone starts doing 1%, then change is going to happen. So we've already initiated some of this stuff. One of the things that we did, the last day of school for teachers, we did a picture activity that he suggested, and it was really eye-opening. So they do a teacher lock-in, and they take all the students' pictures and they lay them out. And we did this, and you get 5 stickers, and you put those on the 5 kids that you're closest to. And then at their school, then they gave them 10, and they do it to the 10 next. Well, then they pull away all the pictures that don't have dots, and they take a picture of all the students that don't have dots. Starting day 1, the students that didn't have dots, they start targeting them day 1, because he says those are the kids that fall through the cracks. And when we did it at our school, I was like, whoa. It's sad. I mean, we have how many staff members? And so many of the kids had several dots, and there were students that no staff member had felt a really close connection to. And I was interested to crosswalk it to see if those are some of our lowest students, because probably they are. They don't feel connection. They're not gonna work for you, you know? So it was eye-opening. So, and as a board and superintendent, we also want you to be thinking about what is 1%, 1% change that you can make. Because like I said, if we all do it, it'll be 100%. So, and thank you.
Thank
I mean,
you.
it was, I wanna go back in October, like, it was like one of those things, as soon as, like, we wanna go back, like, there's so much, and I I know that Moorhaven Elementary, we're gonna go in with this, and I know that we're gonna see positive come out of it, so we appreciate the opportunity for going and allowing us to come share our experience. You want that?
Just thank you.
Go ahead.
So I've been, well, first of all, thank you for sending us. It was really, really amazing. But I've been kind of brainstorming, at least for the West Glades, because, you know, Ms. Willis has questions, and then I have questions, and then it's, you know, blinding mine. But if we were to implement it at West Glades, another question is like, well, where do we start? Do we implement it in 4th grade? Do we implement it in 5th grade? Do we implement it in 6th grade? And I was kind of thinking, if we implement it in 6th grade, it's obviously going to take like 2 years for those traditions to build. But if we implement it in 6th grade, then the 5th graders are going to be like, okay, I'm going to get sorted, and I'm going to have a family who's going to guide me. And then the 8th graders and 7th graders can then cheer on their new like family members. And then the 6th graders who are poor little kids are running around, they can be guided. They can get, oh, like this person has bread on, let me go talk to them. Hey, can you guide me to Ms. Gilman's class? Can you guide me to Ms. Smith's class? I'm struggling in Smith's class. What do you recommend I do? So it builds that leadership in the 8th graders and the 7th graders, while also empowering the 6th graders, lifting them up, right? Because the big thing is, let's say a kid gets sorted into the red house, but they really feel like they're a blue house kid. Well, with those high expectations, they get pulled up, right, to meet their house goals, their house expectations. So it really is all about empowering those kids, and somehow we can figure out how to give those 8th graders leadership skills, right? And again, I think the Amazing Shake or the Great Shake is a great idea, because then we can bring in a superintendent, or the amazing ladies of the foundation, right, Education Foundation, or business members of our community. Like, maybe I don't know them, but if I have a good conversation with them, then that builds those social skills. And if we the Essential 55, there are a few little like strategies in there that we can take as social challenges. And if we implement them, like, hey, thank your custodian on a day that's not just Happy Custodian Day, right? Thank your lunch ladies on a day that's not just Lunch Lady Day. If you thank them every single day, and the kids get used to that, we're obviously setting that high expectation and giving them social challenges. So, again, that's going to build on our positive culture, right? And we already have kids saying yes, yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. But again, giving them the tools and holding our expectations high will pull those kids, you know, to meet them and surpass them.
I'm glad you guys came and shared with us, because it's exciting to know that some little decision you made by saying yes, it's gonna mean so much.
It is.
And I don't know the last time we've ever heard a thank you for sending somebody to professional development. That doesn't happen. And I have to say this, just,
We can send you a list of them.
Okay. I know we started the meeting off in kind of a somber, occasion, and, we were all very emotional, because, Miss Hughes, in 40 years, loved the profession, but it's so fulfilling for me to sit up here and I look at some of you that I've known since you were little girls, and Olivia, I have to tell you, I just get so emotional because of the fact that you all are so passionate about your kids and what you want to make. In Moorhaven Elementary, you could have every excuse of why you're not going to be successful we're not going to be successful until that new school's built. But you guys are rising above it. I mean, and I love it that you said, well, they started in an old Coke warehouse. I mean, I know over there the last couple of days, it's like a warehouse trying to holes in the roof. But you guys are really, and I love it I think more than anything that Westglades and Moorhaven Elementary and Moorhaven Middle High School. I will say that Miss Dittmer wanted to attend tonight. Okay. The board, you each have a copy, so I please ask you to read that. She also put pictures. The collaboration, that we are, and I hope I word this right, that we are not just a school, a district of schools, that we are a school district. Yes. So, and you guys are just the foundation. Thank you so very much. It is very gratifying. Crystal?
Yes, I just so, a few of you were my students, and it just does my heart so good to see you and see the leadership, and it makes me want to go back and teach again with you guys.
Can you teach science?
I don't think so.
Okay. They can take it and read it. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, good job.
Now, not so exciting for me.
Yeah.
Item 5.1, adoption of revised school board policies as advertised in Okeechobee News on May 24th, 2023. And we have a list that's revised.
Make a motion that we adopt the revised school board policies as advertised in the Okeechobee News on May 24th, 2023.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
6.1, we don't have any amended items. Okay. Number 7, public comment on items on the agenda. You don't have any cards? No. Okay. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they need to pull? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda 8.1 to 8.16.
A motion to approve the consent agenda from 8.1 to 8.16.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 9, approval of controlled open enrollment policy changes effective June 30th, 2023. Any motion? We can discuss.
I move to approve the controlled open enrollment policy changes.
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
9.2, appeal of policy 3430.04, denial of personal leave, S. Griffin.
So I would like to address the board about this. Let's see. So one of the great things that, procedure that we have that we do as a school board, many of you all don't know, that one of the rules that a school board cannot discuss, will break this, go into the sunshine law. Like if one of the board members is in my office, another one can't be in there discussing anything that's related to the school business because it might be something they have to vote on. So that would be breaking the sunshine law. So one of the things I think things that I think our school board does that I know several other districts don't do, but it works for us because I think it gives us the time to have conversations. If the board has a question about something that's going to be on the agenda, or if they're like, can you explain this to me? Individually, they'll come in and meet with me. Sometimes the meetings are 5 minutes. Sometimes they're in and out. Sometimes, Ms. Prowant, Crystal, right?
She did not.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah. Sometimes they're 2-3 hours. Sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, Ms. Prowant. But it always there's always a lot of conversation. And as a superintendent, I've only been doing this 3 years, but I always pride myself in I'm not going to go into something and make a decision if I'm just, I'm not going to be hard-headed. I'm going to listen to what my board's, suggestion. And I think that's why it works really well with the teachers union because we have such a great relationship. And, Mr. Dimchak, Ms. Humphreys can come in. We have conversations, and not saying that we always agree on something, but it's okay to disagree, but to have those conversations. This got brought up because we had a teacher contacted me, I want to say a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, and she wanted to go to I believe it was her sister's wedding, and so we looked at the policy, and when I read the policy, I think she read it the same way I did, and it was that it says that except for specific prior approval by the principal, none of the 6 paid personal leave days may be used during the preschool or post-school planning period or the day before or a day after a school board approved holiday or professional development day. So she and I talked about it. And I said to her, I can't, that's board policy. She agreed. She was very professional, and she said, no big, Dr. Barfield, I understand, so whatever. So then two more teachers came forward here in the past couple of weeks, and they had, I believe both of them were weddings, and same thing. They said they needed to be off those days. I read it as the policy stated, and I told the principal, I said, I can't. That's a board policy. If these teachers want to come forward and they want to address the board, that's understandable. In meeting with the board and talking to the board, that when it was nothing against these teachers personally, I want you guys to know that it's very difficult, especially when you're looking at these policies. You're not looking at, well, this was X, Y, and Z. She's a horrible teacher. We're not doing it for her, or she's a great teacher. Let's do it. We have to be consistent and across the board. So in talking with my board, and they don't even know this because I have not shared this with them, but the ones that came to me, each voiced a concern about what was written. Now, this policy has not been updated since 2015. I have to tell you that. And I want to be out there that I do feel like the wording in this policy needs to be probably a little clearer, but as the policy as it stands, I feel like, and the board was very vocal about this, they feel like that the way it is written, it would be up to the principal. Yes. And please understand, it was we didn't want to deny people. There never was an intention to keep anybody from going anywhere. Please understand that. But I wanted to make sure that if we did for one, we did for all. So I do have the situation where I do have another teacher that, I don't know, I'm afraid, I don't know, I'm hoping that she can still go make her trip. I don't know, we'll figure that out, and that will be on, we'll figure it out. But, so I don't know, I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. My big concern here, and, when I started looking into this, I'm really concerned about how many days our staff members are missing. And as of today, in substitutes, we have spent $402,000 for this year in substitute pay. $402,000. And it's a lot of money. And now the ladies that asked for time off, it was not gonna cost anything in substitute. I don't wanna say that, but we've got a huge issue. And, I've got it broken down. I'm gonna email it to you all as board members. I think you need to see it by school. There's some huge glaring issues. And, I'm gonna be, when I do my superintendent's report, I'm gonna be talking about our school, our test scores came out, and so we have a lot of data that I'm gonna be sharing with you. And great things are going on. I don't want you to think that, but I just want it to be said that if there was $402,000, and we all know that nothing replaces excellent teaching in a classroom. So you figure our subs don't make $1,000 a day. So you gotta figure how many days of instruction was lost. But I don't know if it's not a vote. I don't know how. I just want it to be on record that I think that we need to take these items and let the principal make that decision.
Okay, so I'm one of the ones that came in and talked to Dr. Barfield about it, and my interpretation of the policy, and I believe that Mr. McKinley confirmed that he would interpret it the same way, is that any teacher wanting to take these days off that extends a holiday or the beginning or ending of the year, that would be up to the principal to approve or not approve. And I also want to go on record as saying something that I said to Dr. Barfield. We don't have a choice of when our friends plan their weddings. If we deny this leave, if the principal decides to deny this leave, this teacher, who may be an outstanding teacher and a very positive influence on the staff, is going to be stuck with making a decision to go anyway, which is going to create a bad situation between the principal and the teacher, or to not go and be angry and maybe bring negative vibes to those first 2 days of school. I just think that I don't. You're right, we have way too many teachers being absent. And maybe if we build this culture that we were just talking about, we'll have fewer teachers taking time off that they don't need to take off. And I would like to see an analysis, if it's possible, of all those days that were missed, how many were actual personal days versus sick days. If we have a lot of teachers taking personal days, that may be something that's gonna be corrected by the culture. You can't help it if you're sick, but you can plan your doctor's appointments on days that you don't have school and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that can be done, but again, I would say if you're one of those teachers that's requesting leave, go back and have this discussion with your principal. And obviously, if your principal denies it and you want to come back and appeal that to the superintendent of the board, you can certainly do that. But let's follow the policy and have the principals make that decision initially.
I'd just like to add too that if I remember correctly, if you guys, Jenny, if you remember, correct me, but it seemed to me that we had an issue with teachers on spring break and Christmas vacation, doing a lot of ski trips were going on at that time. And so these were just vacations that people were planning, and they were leaving a day or two early before school got out, they were getting back a day or two after school. And it really did become a problem, because what was a 1 week spring break was turning into 2 weeks, and it was multiple teachers out. And so I think that's where the root of this policy comes from. Is that correct?
You
That's
are
what I
correct,
thought.
that is when the policy was
Yeah.
implemented.
And so it wasn't for a date certain event like a funeral or a wedding, you know, so it was really created to keep teachers scheduling their vacations when they, you know, would work for the school. But it actually happened to me. I don't know if y'all remember, but I went to Hawaii one time on spring break, and my airline went out of business while I was there, and I could not get back to work the next week. So
What do you say?
yeah.
She suffered.
Still pushing that story.
I had to call Ms. Crowant and say, I'm stuck.
And I want to say too, that the employees that, the one that reached out to me prior to, as well as the ones that have reached out and sent letters to the board, they're great employees, and they're very conscious of taking on, they're not just out abusing their hours. That was never the case. But currently, this as of this pay period, we have 66 employees. That's not just teachers, that's employees, 66 that are leave without pay. That means they are working without getting a paycheck. They're working for benefits. So we've got to, I agree with Ms. Prowant, and I think that once we build that culture, and I think that we can really, that's something we need as a district that we need to work on. And, you know, I know that that working with the teachers union, that's something that we can all talk about and come up with some really good ideas. And so I hope that we can move forward. And, you know, like I said, I'm really blessed that I have a board that will come in and talk to me and, you know, and say, you know, okay, let me tell you how I'm feeling about it. Show me what you're saying. Now, you know, when Miss Prowant left, I mean, she knocked me around a little bit. You know, it's good, but you know, Jenny will call and say, "Hey, tell me what's." So they each do in their own way, and you know, I want everyone to know that our board is it's when I talk to other superintendents, y'all, and I just want you to know this, because you don't see this side of it. Because when I was a principal, I didn't see this side of it, or when I was a teacher. When I talk to other superintendents and I tell them about our board meetings, or if I watch, like when I watch other board meetings, you have a great board, and they're truly, they read, and they send, when we send out the board docs, they're reading it, and they really do care. So I just want you all to know that.
And thank you for listening. That's awesome.
She puts up her,
Yes.
when I come in, every time I come in, she's like, "What now?" But she always listens.
She does, and she actually is mature and flexible enough to see your perspective. I mean, it's refreshing.
Could you say that again one more time?
Make sure that's right.
That's right.
It's refreshing.
So I don't know if we need to pull that. I don't know how.
So,
I don't think it was it an action item?
Yes.
yeah, it was intended to be an action item and you could dispose of it. But in view of the discussion, I think the best thing to do is for you to recommend that it be referred to the principals and get a board motion to that effect, and we've disposed of it, if I'm hearing what the board is talking about.
So
I'd like to make a recommendation that we allow the teachers that brought concerns about their leave to go to the principal.
So somebody needs to first that motion.
Yeah, make that
Okay,
motion.
I move to refer items 9.2 and 9.3 to the principals of the respective schools to make the decision.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that the other teacher that had approached you that did not appeal to the board also knows to go to the principal. Okay.
Okay.
Actually, with her, I'm probably gonna have to meet with her individually, because we need to. I think she gave. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Okay, we have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. General public comments? None. Board member comments and business, but I really have to go to that.
Oh, so
1 minute recess.
1 minute, we better
That's
make
my
it 2 or
comment.
3 minute recess.
Jim Demchak. I was invited here tonight to talk about Marzano and the teacher evaluation system. We noticed this past year there were a few problems in some of the schools with teacher evaluations, and right now you do have Marzano as your choice of tool, lack of a better word for it. We had been looking at other things, but the state is real picky on what they will approve for your choices. You used to have the Copeland model, which is still being used in some places, but the state doesn't like that. I think there's money changing hands is why certain things come in and certain things can't come in. And not at this level, but way above our pay grade. Marzano can work, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done with administrators to be fully trained as the law requires before they start evaluating the teaching staff, the professional staff. And we discovered this year with some grievances that we had to go through because things weren't being done properly and teachers were not being appropriately evaluated, and we got those taken care of. So I think this next year, or this summer before we get back, the committee that's defined in the contract for a teacher evaluation committee is going to do a lot of work to turn this manual into something that becomes user-friendly. When Marzano first came around 2011, it had 63 elements the teachers had to be evaluated on, and it's dropped to 23. But some of those are more important than others. And we feel strongly that your first, second, third year teachers should be trying to meet all 23 of those elements. But as Marzano's defined, some of those is having a greater impact on student learning. Let's get our teachers, particularly the young teachers, proficient in those, and then worry about some of the lesser things later on. But when we first brought Marzano in 17, 18, I believe it was, we said we're only going to use 6 or 7 of the 23 at that time for everybody, and slowly bring in the rest of them. And as I learned from Dr. Butterfield, the Marzano program was never sent to the state for your approval. Is that correct, Dr. Butterfield?
Correct.
Yeah. So we were under the impression that you had an approved system with the state, and that's never happened. So I think this is to get you caught up with what the state needs from the district. And then we want to work with the administration and the teachers to train everybody as best so we can improve instruction, which will improve student learning. That's the key to any evaluation system, is give every teacher actionable feedback that they can then turn around and implement, and student learning will improve. I don't know if you have any specific questions that you want to know, but I think that's the intent. Dr. Butterfield's pull us together. We've had some meetings on this, and now we've got work to do.
So I have a couple of questions. So I know this is in the contract, right? This is going to be negotiated, I'm assuming. But is it all 23 are going to be used this year? We're going from 6 to 23?
We hope not.
Okay.
I think that's something that the committee is empowered to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing, it's a waiver by the union to give away the negotiation right to something like evaluation, but it makes a lot more sense to have a committee that's focused on just that, to come up with what's needed.
Right. Will the company, Dr. Marzano's research company, will they provide trainers that will come? Because when it was first introduced, someone from somewhere came and did a PowerPoint presentation on Marzano and read the PowerPoint slides to us of all the strategies that a good teacher would use, and it was ridiculous. And I sat there thinking, why aren't you modeling what you expect us to do? And, you know, they had the videos of kids that had obviously practiced, and, you know, so for me personally, and I'm not speaking for the board, I'm just personally speaking, we've never had adequate training that I'm aware of for teachers, because it's got to be modeled. Because everything looks great on paper, but is it realistic? Can it really be done? And if so, show me, and then I'll try to do it. but don't read me a PowerPoint and expect me to check off 23 in one lesson. You know, I mean, it's just, to me, it's crazy.
I can't remember if it's 16, 17, or 17, 18, but Heck did the training for the districts. You were involved, Henry, Hardy, to go away from Copeland and go to Marzano. And I know Hardy County paid for me to be trained because they wanted me to get the current training to help them. And you had a team there. I mean, Scott Bass was there, two people from the district office, Katrina Fay went through the training. It was 5 or 6 days worth of training to get ready. And all your administrators were there at the time, but you've gone through a lot of administrators over the
Right.
years. So I don't know, probably Mr. Burkle was there at the time.
What we're doing, we're working with Marzano, the company. They're the ones that's gonna be providing the actual training. It's not gonna be a third-party company or, someone that thinks they're skilled in Marzano. It's actually gonna be.
Good.
Now, the one reason Marzano is because a lot of, like Mr. Demchak is saying, a lot of the school districts are going back to Marzano because of the state's requirements. And it does have the most solid online platform and model that's out there. The IE Observation is the software that we would use when we're observing teachers through the classroom. Now, the 23, you're not obviously going to see 23 things when you go in a classroom. If you do, you're probably spending way more time than you need to in that classroom.
Or you still dog and pony show.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, exactly, or Wonder Woman
Yeah.
is teaching. I
So
mean,
basically, what it's designed for is to give you not only a way of recording what you're observing in the classroom, but it's a way for feedback for that teacher as well. So they can go in and see exactly where maybe possibly strengths are or deficiencies. And it's all about a process of having a discussion with the teacher after you have an observation or an evaluation with them. So it is a program. They're going to be going to the campuses, actually training with the staff members there, and we're starting the process. I don't want to say because I wasn't here at that time, but I think for the most part, when we did Marzano, we just bought the software. When I say we, I'm talking about the district, and there was virtually no training. But you have invested $14,000 in providing that training, not only to the school administrators. District administrators are going to be doing walkthroughs as well on campuses, and to the staff members, they'll get training as well. And there's multiple trainings on down the road that we can do to help fill in some of those, areas of weaknesses that we need to provide.
Does Marzano recommend I think ours right now, the way it's set up, it's 30% is based on student performance, 33%.
We're still,
Is that the minimum by statute?
Mhm.
Because that leaves the other 77 or whatever it is, 76. I don't know, I think the student performance should be higher personally. I mean, I just feel like if you're going through all this trouble, that a lot of that other is subjective, whereas your student performance data is pretty objective. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know that's maybe not what the union would want to hear, but
I don't think it's much the union, is that until the state can really come up with a
Yeah.
valid, reliable
Yeah.
assessment and stop changing it.
I hear you. Point taken, point taken.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Otherwise,
really,
I would agree with your thought
Yeah.
process, that, if we have something that's reliable, probably
Because-
teachers would be willing to.
because if you're putting on there, they attend, football games and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, so this teacher's kid plays on the football team and mine doesn't, so they get points for going to watch their kid. That's just stupid. That doesn't have anything to do with what's going on in your classroom. And the teacher that just really does go to support the kids doesn't get any more than the one who's watching your kid. You know what I mean? It's just that some of that stuff to me is like, that has nothing to do with whether you're good in the classroom. I mean, it's nice and it's good, but if your scores are still bad, but you go to every football game, then what do we? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just think Marzano allows for a lot of that. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. And I saw if the union's for it, you know, I guess I'll be for it, but I think they're crazy, but whatever.
There are other things we'd like better, but just,
Yeah,
it's not worth the fight and the effort with the state at this
Right.
point.
right.
Let another couple of districts fight it and win, and then I think we'll take a look at it.
Can you do your own?
You can, but between the cost and, man hours to make
Create
the
it.
state that you have something that is,
Valid,
yeah, and has research behind it.
yeah.
I mean, Dr. Lozano did a great job. He did no research was wrong. He did no research and pulled this into a book, multi-millionaire.
Yeah, and taught, I think, 2 years.
It
Whatever,
was never intended to be an evaluation system,
really.
no. But he was smart enough to see Florida wanted it, so then he chopped it down to the 23 elements and was selling it to everybody again.
Well, maybe it needs to have something in it about your t-shirts. They wear their t-shirt every week.
Any other questions, concerns? I mean, I think we're gonna have good working dialogue to make your district stronger. And that's the goals of hopefully everything we do together.
Thank you for coming down and taking the time. And listen, that's another thing when I tell people, I just call him on the phone. And I mean, they're like, you call him on the phone like all hours of the night. So he's very willing. And, and I think that's been, 3 years ago. I mean, I'd never been a superintendent before. I mean, I had been a principal, a successful principal, and I felt I knew what I was doing. But when you're in this seat, it's completely different than anything you have ever experienced. And I was just blessed. And I mean, Glades County teachers, you are blessed to have someone like Jim that you can call. And like I said, we've not agreed on everything. I mean, there's been times that he'll say to me, what? And then, but he takes the time. Yeah.
Like just now with me.
Yeah. He takes the time to go through, and that is not typical. I mean, you have people that just want to get the job done and make their money and go on down the road, and he's definitely not that person. So.
Very kind.
We were very lucky.
Why are you trying to do it?
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're back to board member comments and business. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'm happy to say I have no comments other than I want to thank Ms. Erskine for inviting me the other day. That was great. Had so much fun. And it's always good to go into school. But that's all I have.
There's miracles.
So Miss Erskine had us come into her class, and her kids, when I came in, had no clue why I was there because I was dressed for work and had a 4-H emblem on my shirt, so they thought I was going to talk about animals. This 30 minutes of this class day made my entire day. People at work even noticed that something was different within myself. These kids changed my day. So Miss Erskine,
My hands are sweaty.
this handshake meant so much for me and my kids, your kids. I call them all mine. They're our kids. Guys, do y'all see how simple this handshake is? It takes 2 seconds. It meant so much. And when we watched that video and that little girl placed her hand on Dr. Barfield's hand, I bawled. I don't know why I got emotional. I shook all of these kids' hands, but she did that. And I lost it. Just sitting there on the phone watching my video. But thank you so much. That amazing handshake, I didn't know that was part of your presentation. It's changed just my daily value. So that 1%, I've implemented in my everyday. Thank you for everything. Okay, so on top of that, I also have been sending out things, talking to people about how amazing it is for these teachers that are going off. And in other states and other counties, people were saying, they're just going off, they're having fun, they're eating out. And I'm like, wow, I've gone to conferences and I've eaten out and I've had lots of fun. But let me tell you the value that I've gotten from every conference I've gone to. The value that you guys have brought back to Glades County is invaluable. I am so impressed at the excitement, and you're eager not just to teach your kids, but your coworkers to get them on that page with you.
Congratulations on doing that. I know I've heard a little bit of pushback from some of what you're doing. Don't stop. Remember, your 1% has already made a difference in someone.
Amen.
That's all.
I just want to know why I didn't get invited to the picture. My feelings are hurt.
I don't think I got invited, I don't know, because I don't ever check my email.
You were out of town anyway, so you.
Yeah, I was, but I was looking at it on Facebook. So, yeah, I just am so excited for the school year. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me and what you talked about was the exercise you did at Moorhaven Elementary School with the pictures. And if we can make a connection, every student with a teacher, that will be more than 1%. I'm just going to tell you, connections are so important. And so many of those kids go home to a dysfunctional family, a home where there's not enough food, or there's not a parent that's responsible. And if they can make a connection with an adult at school, it will make all the difference in the world. In identifying those. See, we always think we're making connections with all of them, but when you do that exercise and you see that there's some that are not, what an eye-opener. What an eye-opener.
The head shakes in the room is eye-opening. Just seeing that you're all agreeing and having that experience that you've done that already is amazing.
I don't know why they put the two ballers down here on this end, but we've already gone through 2 boxes of art tonight.
Well, I didn't know you were allowed to change seats. I've been in the same seat since 2008.
There's a policy on that.
She's on the same seat.
Okay, anybody else?
What? I didn't hear you, and she just told me what you said.
Sheesh. Okay.
Madam Chairman.
We have a teacher that wants to make a comment.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yes, I have just a comment. So with anything new we implement, we're always going to receive back. You know, just people like, we can't even keep it promised about one thing, and how they're trying to get us to do something else. But if we build it right, they're gonna get on board, right? And well, on the slideshow, I don't know if you guys saw, they were suggesting us to read Red Bus or something, and Ron talks about your runners, your joggers, your walkers, and your riders. And it's a really super simple book to read. And the people who are going to give us the most, like, just like backtalk about us implementing this are usually our riders, people who are coming in to get a paycheck, right? They're not willing to go the extra mile for the kids. And sometimes it's okay just to say goodbye, right? So if we can really build our teachers up and continue to build our kids up, then we're going to build a successful foundation for more kids to want to join us, and then more teachers to want to join us, and then we're just going to be like amazing. Yes.
Well said.
Good job.
Okay, Dr. Barfield is now board member comments.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, hello, it's superintendent.
Okay, so there are some days in my office that are horrible. There are days that I come to work and that are just the worst. And today when I got my, every morning at 5 a.m. I get a list, and I don't wake up at 5 a.m., but it comes at 5 a.m. But when it does come, it tells me what I'm doing throughout the day. And it looked like meetings all day long. It was meetings, meetings, meetings. And I thought, today is going to be just a day of just nothing but meetings and constant, anyway. And so I had all administrators here at the building. We were watching, as you know, the Florida legislature, we have about 54 new laws that are going into effect, and it's a lot. So there's so much that we're trying to get everybody on board. This is what the laws are going to be. And they said it's going to start at 9:30. We want everybody there to listen. Well, last night late, I got an email. All superintendents have to be on this conference call at 9:30. I'm like, how can I do both? This is going to be. And then it's like, then all the text messages from the, different superintendents, what do you think it's about? Oh my gosh, everybody's scared to death. And so we're sitting there, and it comes out assessments that they said they're releasing these scores, all the scores. Well, automatically, I explained it to Ms. Browant today. When you hold your breath and you get real tight, you just want to. And when the scores started coming out, it felt like I just was able to just release every bit of tension in my body. I don't think I have ever been so proud to be a leader of any organization, if it was a principal or a superintendent or a teacher in a classroom, than I was today. Because I saw when these, and I'm going to share these scores with you, when I saw your principals and heard what they were saying about the teachers. It wasn't about them. It was about what they were saying about the teachers and what the teachers had done to make what I'm going to share with you happen. And I'm going to pass these out. I've got enough for everybody in the audience. I'm also going to pass out, this just came to me this evening actually. When you get a news flash and it says, there's a title and Glades County is highlighted. Dear God, please don't let this be anything bad. I don't know. I want to share this. I want you all to know that. Well, I'm just going to pass it out. So don't look at it though until I start. When Miss Prowant and Miss Drake came to meet with me earlier, I wouldn't show it to her. And Miss Prowant was trying to cheat.
No matter how hard I tried.
She tried.
She would not show it to me. I tried to tell her I was older, had more experience.
Prettier, she can try everything.
Right here, Jackie. Kim and I.
I don't know what just happened there.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm gonna work through these, and I like Mr. Boyles is amazing, and I appreciate him more than he could ever imagine. Mr. Boyles has been with me for many years, and when the scores come in, he knows I get a lot. I get very antsy, and there's a certain way we like to do it, and so I really appreciate him for being with me for so many years and helping me out. All right, so I'm going to start. I just compared us to the consortium, but if you look at the state, this was more just local. So if in 5th grade science, we were at a 57% for Glades County. Hendry County was at 31%. Highlands was at 47%. Okeechobee was at 42%. DeSoto was at 29%. Hardee was at 35%, and the state average was 51%. So we beat the state average. And then I'm gonna hit the high points first, and I'll come back. If you look at civics, Glades County, the average was 73%. Hendry was 50%. Highlands was 56%. Okeechobee was 50%. DeSoto was 62%. Hardee was 58%. And the state average was 66%. So once again, we broke the state average. If you look at ELA, we were 45%. Hendry was 39%. Highlands was 42%. Okeechobee was 39%. DeSoto was 33%. Hardee was 43%. And the state average was 50%. So we did not beat the state average in that, but we were the highest in the consortium. All right, math, and that is grades 3 through 12. Math, our average was a 56%. Hendry was 37. Highlands was 52. Okeechobee was 47. DeSoto was 39. Hardee was 53. And the state average was 55, and we broke the state average on that. Okay. Then I want you to look at, and there's several different columns in here. You know, there's some places that we definitely, there's some things that we need to increase, and we will. I want you to look at the third row column, and this is huge. This speaks to every teacher, not just the 5th grade teachers or not just the 3rd grade teachers. It takes every teacher in that building to produce what you're seeing here. Glades County, in the very first, this was 22, this is 2022 versus 2023. So this is 1 year of growth. Glades County's science score in 2022 was a 36%. This year it was 57%, which is a 21% increase. Hendry County went from 28 to 31, which was a 3%. Highlands went from 41 to 47, which was a 6%. Okeechobee went from a 41 to a 42, which is 1%. DeSoto went from a 23 to a 29, which is 6%. And Hardee went from a 41 to a 35. They actually decreased by 6%. So 21%, that is huge. Then if you look at our science, 8th grade science across the consortium, everybody went down percentage points except in Hardee, and they stayed the same. So let's skip on over to the biology. We know that 8th grade science is something that we need to desperately work on, and that I have a feeling that the consortium is going to be working with us to come up with something. But let's look at biology end of course. Last year, this time, our percentage was at 18%, and we went up to 43%, which is a 25% increase. That's huge. Hendry County went from a 50 to a 45. They decreased by 5%. Highlands went from a 50 to a 57. They increased by 7%. Okeechobee stayed the same. DeSoto went down 9%, and Hardee went down 4%. So as you can see, we did amazing. And you know, I told Miss Prowant this, and I don't know why, but I just knew. I'm like, I can hear it now. Someone's gonna say, "Oh, they're cheating over in Glades County." And here's what I'm gonna say. We had state auditors in our building, in every building. So there was no cheating going on. These were raw. This is real numbers. Then, and I'm just putting it all out there because I am very proud. So then, if you look at the bottom, the math PM1 versus PM3, we went from this right here, I think is I don't know why, but this number makes me the proudest. When we took PM1, we were one of the lowest districts in the state with a 7% proficiency. Guys, 7% of our kids met mastery. We went to a 56%. Not only did we beat the state average, we were one of the highest numbers in the state. That's good teaching. So congratulations to teachers. Okay, so then I'm going to go.
Overall math, the whole K.
That was math, there's science. No. So then if you go back up to the second row, and so what's our grade going to be? So now this is not solid, but as of right now, Moorhaven Elementary it's a mid to high C. And let me just say that is no gain scores. That is all proficiency. West Glades is a solid A. Moorhaven Middle High School is a C, and that is before any acceleration points are added. Paymietta and Mahaga is a solid A. And since 2013, we will no longer be a C district, we will be a B district. So, great things are happening in our school district, and then do not have copies of the news report, but this is a testament to our third grade teachers, and this was what the news, the article stated. It said only half of Florida's third graders are reading at grade level. The path to prosperity impacted for nearly 111,000 third graders. And in the article, it talks about, it said a handful of rural school districts made incredible strides over the past year. For example, Glades County saw third grade reading scores increase by 15 percentage points over the year and now has 58% of third graders reading at grade level. So my superintendent report is that's all I need to say, because that data says enough. And
My child
so
was one of those third graders that was on not reading level and was on reading level. I did.
And I just thank you to the teachers. You all did an amazing job, and I just think that this is going to be our best year yet. And we appreciate you all, and thank you so much for everything. And that's it.
Where are you sending us, Beth?
Yeah, where are we going to take this? Get your teeth on.
Get your-
Esther money, right?
I think when you look at stuff like this and people realize the great things that are going on, one thing that I want, I told, Ron was here, he saw this, and Rhonda, when your principals, when we were sitting here, and I've only been in this position 3 years, but I was a principal in this district before, but one of the things that, and I believe I told you or Crystal, I don't remember which one, when the scores came out and we started analyzing the scores, it wasn't, oh, look at what Moorhaven did, or look what Westglade. The conversation was, the principal from Westglades and the principal at Moorhaven said, okay, am I telling the truth? Okay, we got to get our civics teacher, we need you to we need those teachers to get together. Can we get them together? Yes, but you know what? Our math scores, oh my gosh, what are you doing? They started having those conversations, and one of the principals said, we've never had these conversations. It was about everybody working together, and the conversations, it was, I'm so happy for you, Westglades. Wow, they were cheering on, and it became a collegial group, and what can we do? And listen, guys, I'm not up here trying to be a cheerleader. I mean,
Yes, you are.
okay, a little bit. But this is huge, and it's huge because I know that I'm gonna blow this thing up on social media and I want every teacher to, because when people say things about our district, this is what they need to know.
They're sending their kids to private school. They need to see what our community schools are doing for our kids, and how our teachers are coming together for our kids and our community. Quit sending your kids to private schools and bring them back to the public schools, period.
Can I say something?
Stephanie?
I've obviously been in this district a long time, and I can say this is the first year that I felt we had a relationship with Westglades. It's always been Westglades against us.
Yes.
This is the first, 16, 17 years in this district, and literally, I could never before reach out to the team, and those teachers are there, but I don't know, it's changed, and the third grade team would text me, we would email, we had this collaboration, and it was so amazing this year to not feel it was us against them. We were all together. And then the one other thing I want to say about sharing that, when we were just at the HEC conference, I don't know if did you share with your board already about the teacher, how she was. So we were there and we were all, sitting, doing karaoke and everything, and a teacher from Highlands came over and asked what district we were from. And we were like, Glades, and she was like, what? She's like, I can't, she wanted to come work here just because she saw the camaraderie among the group and how close we were. And she was telling us like all the stuff that she's dealing with in Highlands County, and I was telling Dr. Barfield, that was at a conference, and she was like, I want to come teach there. I want to come teach there. And so it's one of those things that I think we've had a negative connotation with our district, but the more that we push the positive out there, I think people are gonna start seeing that great things are happening in our schools.
Yes, they are.
So.
Several parents that have gone on field trips this year with kids have had people from their different communities stop and say, where are you guys from? Where are your kids from? We've never had this well-mannered group be so respectful and come to our facilities and actually take care of it and clean it up and be respectful with everybody. But several times, I know the kids have gone to SeaWorld when they were at Dave & Buster's, a couple other places I can't remember, but that's powerful for somebody to recognize that and feel led to have to come and tell you.
Absolutely. And they need to see this on social media.
Yes.
And they need to know, and our teachers need to promote that. And I'll say it again, these people pushing their agendas for these private schools, they need to, your kids are not going to get the education they're going to get at our public schools with our teachers, as much as we care about those kids. So I can't say it enough. I was just telling someone who worked here the other day who decided to send their kid to a private school, and they wanted to know what I thought, and I said, I think it's ridiculous. I said, I don't think you're giving our schools a chance, and you're wanting the easy way out and let them coddle my kid through so they don't have to do anything difficult and give them their diploma. That's against, and I said, well, you asked me, so don't ask.
You don't want to hear the answer,
That's
don't
right.
ask, right?
That's right. We have good schools and we have good teachers. And that's just how I feel about it. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
I was just gonna say that. Well, I will say it. I was just gonna say what Kimberly said. We have heard that for years, even back when I was principal. Some of you may remember we had proms at Disney World and places like that. And they would say, oh, we don't allow any other schools to come to Disney anymore, but y'all can come because of the way your kids behave. We have always had good kids.
Always.
We just need to connect with them and
Our schools are
keep
coming
doing
together.
what we're doing.
They're collaborating, we're working together, and, right now, if you don't have your kid in a Glades County school, it's a huge loss for you.
Do y'all remember our saying at the beginning of the year? From surviving to thriving?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to see what other great things, just on another completely different note, Mr. Gresseth and I met with the architect on, what was yesterday? And so, he actually, everything looks good. The money situation is really good. And so he was going to do the RFQ, gonna probably get that out here in the next couple of days. Which is request for qualifications, and so that's moving along very quickly. Just a funny story that you all laugh. I have a heater underneath my desk, and I'm always very cold, so I had turned my heater on, and I noticed when I was talking to him, he was a little red, and I thought, gosh, hope he's okay. And then I looked over, and Brian's red, and then the guy's like sweating. And I said, oh gosh, are you hot? I said, let me turn my heater off. He goes, your heater? He said, I thought I was having a heart attack. But I got us some extra things because, he's going to go out on a good note. But so that's really great. It looks like that we could be breaking ground here next week, no, I'm just kidding. I don't want to skip Brian that heart attack. Probably around August, possibly, no, not August, but in the fall, we'll have some sort of a groundbreaking ceremony, but probably looking like we would be in it in around 25. Is that what, the August of 25 is when the school would open up. So, and everything's good. The bus, we're gonna get a brand new bus barn. It's gonna be absolutely beautiful. And that's all. The other thing was Ron Clark, which I've already said a lot of my sentiments about Ron Clark, and I love the fact that Stephanie did it, and I kind of chuckled, and then a couple more, like Bernie did it, and then when you did it from West Glades, you know, y'all call him Ron like y'all are his best friend. Y'all were like, and Ron said, I mean, okay, Ron, you know. So anyway.
Oh yeah, he had this famous saying. So, well, I'm gonna probably quote it wrong. So he was saying everyone's always like.
Well, he was saying that education is just not what it is, and that we need to teach high, and that it's what's the
Teach the highest in the class.
Everybody's getting a trophy type of education thing, and he said that Americans, what did he say? We're 41st in the world, and the aliens are coming.
We're the 41st in the world, yeah. The aliens is coming. He's like, y'all, we gotta get our acts together. That's not good to be 41st
Right.
in the world in education.
And Florida is 48 in teacher pay, just saying that.
Really?
But not in Glades County.
Just saying.
You're doing well in studying that.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So, all right, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I'll adjourn the meeting.